I'm rusty, John, but I'm going to start singing again because I really love it, and that's it. I was married to a musician.
Behind the scenes, Doris Day's inspiring attitude concealed untold tales of perseverance, adding to her famous charm both on and off film. Doris Day overcame obstacles both on and off screen, and these struggles informed her legendary status, which we will explore today. The star's rise to stardom cast a long shadow. How did she stay out of it? Doris Day, like the majority of Hollywood's famous people, rose to stardom from relative obscurity. Doris Marianne Kappelhoff, better known as Doris Day, came into this world in Cincinnati, Ohio on April 3, 1922. Her German-American parents were Alma Sophia and William Joseph Kappelhoff. Her legendary actress grandmother, Doris Kenyon, was the inspiration for her unusual name. Day's dad was a music instructor and choirmaster, while her mom stayed at home to raise their daughter. I should clarify that Day spent the majority of her life thinking she was born in 1924. Nonetheless, the Associated Press uncovered her birth document on her 95th birthday, confirming that her true birth year was 1922. Tragically, Day was born without her elder brother Richard, one of two. Due to her father's adultery, Day's parents divorced when she was just 10 years old. Despite everything that was going on, Day discovered a refuge in dance and a love for it at a young age. She went so far as to join forces with Jerry Doherty in the mid-1930s that they became a dancing duet that competed nationally. Unfortunately, Day and her friends' hopes were dashed on October 13, 1937, when 3 of her companions were killed in an automobile accident involving a freight train. They had just inked a 5-year deal with a company that supplies dancers to studios in Hollywood. At a goodbye dinner that night at the Hamilton home of Mr. and Mrs. Clarence Holden, Doris and her mother were showered with well wishes from friends. Her bright career came to an end later that day when Doris, Jerry, her brother Lawrence Doherty, and another couple went for a brief ride. Day took comfort in singing along with the radio while she recovered from the vehicle accident. She had a latent knack for singing, and she found it during this period. Ella Fitzgerald's voice was the most captivating to her, yet she would spend hours listening to artists such as Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller, Duke Ellington, Tommy Dorsey, and Duke Ellington. Day tried to imitate Fitzgerald's delicate vocal subtleties and seamless style of singing the words, since she was captivated by Fitzgerald's distinctive voice. Alma, who saw her daughter Day's talent, set her up with singing teacher Grace Rain. When Rain realized Day's potential after just 3 classes, she offered to give her 3 lessons a week for the price of 1. Nobody could have predicted that her modest origins would set her on the path to greatness. Day got her start as a professional singer during the 8 months she spent in voice training, landing jobs at Charlie Yee's Shanghai Inn and the WLW radio show Carlin's Carnival. Barney Rapp, who was looking for a female vocalist, heard her perform on the radio and saw her potential, so he asked her to try out for the role. In the past, Rapp claims to have tried out for almost 200 different vocalists. She worked with Rapp for a while, then went on to collaborate with Jimmy James, Bob Crosby, and Les Brown. In 1941, she sang with Les Brown's band in 3 Soundies, and the following year, Rapp suggested the stage name Doris Day because the surname Kappelhoff was too long for marquees. Day and Brown worked together on a lot of projects, and one of those was her first successful single, Sentimental Journey, which came out in early 1945. The song became an anthem for World War II soldiers, and Day remained closely associated with it throughout her career, even re-recording it several times, including for her 1971 TV special. Day also had success as a vocalist with the Les Brown Band, which had 6 other top 10 hits on the Billboard chart from 1945 to 1946. Les Brown himself praised Day's talent, saying that she belonged in the esteemed company of Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra. Day traveled extensively throughout the United States during her time singing with the Les Brown Band and appearing on Bob Hope's weekly radio program for nearly 2 years. Songwriter Jewel Stein and his partner Sammy Kahn heard her perform Embraceable You and recommended her for a role in Romance on the High Seas, 1948. Day auditioned for the role and was cast, despite telling director Michael Curtis she had no acting experience. Curtis believed her honesty and that her freckles gave her an all-American girl appearance. As a soloist, Day's It's Magic reached number 2, and 2 months earlier, in a duet with Buddy Clark, Love Somebody reached number 1, both of which were signified by the film. The musical biography of songwriter Gus Kahn, I'll See You in My Dreams, was her most financially successful Warner Brothers picture, breaking records that had stood for 20 years. In addition to hosting her radio show, The Doris Day Show, which ran on CBS from 1952 to 1953, Day had 6 film musical soundtracks that reached the top 10 charts, 3 of which reached the number 1 spot. After her roles in Lucky Me, 1954, with Bob Cummings, and Young at Heart, 1955, with Frank Sinatra, Day chose not to renew her contract with Warner Brothers. The film song Secret Love won the Academy Award for Best Original Song and became Day's 4th #1 hit single in the U.S. Doris Day, who was famous for her musical comedy roles, decided to try her hand at more serious parts to show her versatility. Love Me or Leave Me, 1955, in which she played singer Ruth Etting, was a huge hit both critically and commercially. James Cagney lauded her acting chops, drawing comparisons to Lorette Taylor in The Glass Menagerie. Day thought it was her best performance on screen. Surprisingly, producer Joe Pasternak was surprised that she didn't get an Oscar nomination, even though the film's soundtrack album did well. Day showcased her tremendous talent alongside James Stewart in Alfred Hitchcock's thrilling masterpiece, The Man Who Knew Too Much, 1956 film. Day enchanted audiences with her enchanting voice and acting chops, and the film's 2 unforgettable songs, Que Sera, Sera, Whatever Will Be, and We'll Love Again, won her an Oscar for Best Original Song. The picture was a huge hit, and it was Day's 10th film to hit the top 10 of the box office. After a string of dramatic films, Day returned to her musical and comedic roots in The Pajama Game, a delightful adaptation of the Broadway play. This time she co-starred with the charismatic John Raitt, and her next role was as the title character in the noir thriller Julie, 1956, which she co-starred with the talented Louis Jourdan. Day's innate versatility was on full display as she deftly moved from one genre to another. In the Paramount comedy Teacher's Pet, she displayed her comedic timing with the great Clark Gable and the lovely Gig Young. In the romantic comedy The Tunnel of Love, 1958, she starred opposite Richard Widmark and Gig Young again. And who could forget the delightful chemistry she had with Jack Lemmon in It Happened to Jane, 1959. Although Day had achieved tremendous success as a singer, her role as an actress was now more prominent, and her popularity at the box office was more important than her achievements as a vocalist. She had been named #1 female vocalist by Billboard's annual nationwide poll of disc jockeys, an astounding 9 times between 1949 and 1958. But now her acting career was taking center stage. During the years 1959-1964, Day's acting career reached its zenith, riding high on a string of successful romantic comedies. The first of these films, Pillow Talk, 1959, was a collaboration with Rock Hudson, which earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. Day went on to star in 2 more films with Hudson and Tony Randall, Lover Come Back and Send Me No Flowers. Also, Day co-starred in Please Don't Eat the Daisies with David Niven and Janice Page, and she co-starred in That Touch of Mink with Cary Grant. From 1960 to 1964, she was the highest-grossing actress in the business, a record held by Shirley Temple. Day broke the record for leading female box office star by winning 7 consecutive Laurel Awards, an accolade that is still unbroken. Between her comedic roles, Doris Day demonstrated her versatility by starring alongside Rex Harrison in the exciting film Midnight Lace, a modern adaptation of the stage play Gaslight. James Garner and Doris Day formed a dynamic cinematic duo, beginning with their collaboration in The Thrill of It All and continuing with Move Over Darling. The memorable theme song of the latter, Move Over Darling, which was co-written by Day's son, even reached the impressive #8 spot in the UK charts. Day's subsequent picture, Do Not Disturb, was well received by critics and comedians alike, but her star began to dwindle not long after. In the late 1960s, when the sexual revolution was in full swing, Day was slammed by some as the world's oldest virgin, and she fell out of the top 10 at the box office. Interestingly, in 1966, Day turned down the iconic role of Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, a part that ultimately went to Anne Bancroft. In her memoirs, Day explained that she had moral reservations about the script, finding it to be vulgar and offensive. In 1967, Day made her film debut in The Ballad of Josie, a Western. It was not until 1994 that her recorded album, The Love Album, was finally released. In 1968, she had a comedic role in Where Were You When the Lights Went Out?, a picture about the Northeast blackout of November 9, 1965. This was the last picture of Day's film career. The comedy With Six You Get Egg Roll was released that same year. In her career from 1959 to 1970, Day was nominated for a plethora of awards. She won 4 Laurel Awards for her outstanding performances in 8 comedies and 1 drama, and she received 6 Golden Globe nominations from 1959 to 1969 for her outstanding performances in 3 comedies, 1 drama, Midnight Lace, 1 musical, Jumbo, and even her television series. Day's talent really shone during this period, and although she had a very successful career, her marriage was a complete sham. Throughout her life, Doris was wed 4 times. Doris turned to her mother and screamed, "He's a creep!" when she heard that 23-year-old singer Al Jordan had worked up the nerve to ask the 16-year-old starlet out on a date. They had met at Bernie Rapp's band. "Even if there were free gold nuggets at the movies, I still wouldn't date him." The two were married after only a year of dating in 1941, despite Doris's initial reluctance to be married to Al. Doris was quickly becoming a Hollywood star at the time, but she secretly longed for a simpler life away from the spotlight. "All I ever wanted was to be a housewife in a loving marriage, not a dancer or a Hollywood movie star." But Al's real color soon came out. He allegedly beat Doris regularly and displayed abusive behavior. One incident was when Doris kissed one of Al's band members on the cheek, which Al took as an indication of his jealousy. Another time, Al got furious because Doris was featured in a swimsuit issue of a magazine. In the most horrific incident, Doris refused to have an abortion and became pregnant. Al allegedly beat her severely in an effort to cause a miscarriage. The beatings continued during her pregnancy and even after their son Terry was born. The couple's marriage ended in divorce in 1943. Tragically, Al's violent tendencies persisted, and his struggle with schizophrenia led him to commit suicide. According to the Evening Standard, Doris turned to her mother and yelled, "He's a creep!" when she heard that 23-year-old Al Jordan had worked up the nerve to ask the 16-year-old starlet out on a date. They met at the popular Barney Rapp's. "Even if there were free gold nuggets at the movies, I still wouldn't date him." The two were married after only a year of dating in 1941, despite Doris's initial reluctance to be married to Al. Doris was quickly becoming a Hollywood star at the time, but she secretly longed for a simpler life away from the spotlight. "All I ever wanted was to be a housewife in a loving marriage, not a dancer or a Hollywood movie star." But Al's real color soon came out. He allegedly beat Doris regularly and displayed abusive behavior. One incident was when Doris kissed one of Al's band members on the cheek, which Al took as an indication of his jealousy. Another time, Al got furious because Doris was featured in a swimsuit issue of a magazine. The worst part was when Doris got pregnant and wouldn't have an abortion. Al allegedly beat her badly to make her miscarry, and he kept beating her all through her pregnancy and after their son Terry was born. Their troubled marriage ended in divorce in 1943, after only 2 years of marriage. Despite all that Doris Day went through, Al continued to be violent, and his struggle with schizophrenia ultimately drove him to take his own life. However, Doris Day became an iconic figure in the entertainment business, and her legacy stands tall above the shadows cast by her troubled past. In the 3 years following her divorce, Doris rekindled her love affair with saxophonist George Weidler, who was interestingly the brother of actress Virginia Weidel. Their relationship had already generated considerable buzz before they even tied the knot, with rumors circulating that they had shared hotel rooms in the days leading up to their wedding. Unlike Doris's first husband, George was not notoriously violent. However, he allegedly found being a stepfather to Doris's son Terry difficult. George was also infamously unfaithful, and it is believed that he cheated on Doris multiple times during their short marriage. Consequently, their union ended, and they divorced in 1949 after only 3 years of marriage. It is said that Marty allegedly coerced Doris into accepting roles that would bring in substantial earnings while secretly siphoning funds from her bank account. Doris's third marriage to Marty Melcher began in 1959, when she was 29 years old, and lasted until Marty's death in 1968, making it a relatively long-lasting union. Unfortunately, when he passed away, Doris found that her once considerable fortune of $20 million, £15.2 million, had disappeared, leaving her with a frightening debt of $450,000, £342,000, mostly from unpaid taxes. What's more, Marty's abusive behavior even reached Doris's son Terry, causing a wedge between them that eventually caused them to live apart in their latter years of marriage. In 1976, at the age of 52, Doris tied the knot with her last husband, Barry Comden. One contentious issue in their marriage was Doris's intense devotion to her pets, which caused Barry to feel neglected in comparison. In 1996, Barry revealed to the Sunday Mail she had 14 dogs, and the tipping point was when I was displaced from bed to make room for Tiger, a poodle. Among Doris's husbands, her third husband, Melcher, left an indelible mark, causing a lawsuit that remained. Day was shocked to learn, after her third husband, Martin Melcher, died on April 20, 1968, that he and his business partner and advisor, Jerome Bernard Rosenthal, had mismanaged her $22.8 million in earnings and put her into substantial debt. Day sued Rosenthal in February 1969, and although she won in 1974, she didn't receive compensation until 1979. Day was also unpleasantly surprised to learn that Melcher had committed her to a television series that would later become The Doris Day Show. Day hated the idea of being on television, but she felt she had to start the show. The first episode aired on September 24, 1968, with a new version of Que Sera Sera as the theme song. Day did not want to be on the show at first, but she had to pay her bills, and she finally agreed to stay after CBS gave her and her son creative control. The show ran well for 5 years, but fans remember it for the unexpected lineup changes and plot twists that happened between seasons. After a multi-million-dollar judgment was granted to Day in her legal malpractice case against Rosenthal, the Supreme Court of California rejected his appeal in October 1985, affirming the conclusions reached by the trial court and the appeals court, which found that Rosenthal had acted improperly. Day was named as a co-defendant in Rosenthal's $30 million lawsuit against attorneys who he claimed had bilked him out of millions of dollars in real estate investments. Rosenthal characterized Day as an unwilling, involuntary plaintiff whose consent could not be gotten, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to review the lower court's decision in April 1986. According to Rosenthal, a large part of Day's financial losses were caused by the poor advice she had received from other attorneys who had suggested that she sell 3 hotels at a loss, along with some oil leases in Ohio and Kentucky. Day insisted that he had a long-term investment strategy and would not sell the properties until their value had increased. 2 of the hotels had been sold in 1970 for about $7 million, but by 1986 their estimated value had risen to $50 million. Terry Melcher asserted that Day was spared financial ruin because his father died too soon. The question of whether Martin Melcher had been tricked by Rosenthal lingered, and Day publicly declared her belief in his innocence, saying he was only misguided. Day's statements regarding her husband Melcher seemed to disprove the suggestion that she harbored any negative feelings towards her husband, according to author David Kaufman. At the same time, Terry Melcher became a famous music producer and songwriter. In the 1960s, he had success with the Ripcords hit Hey Little Cobra. In the late 1960s, Melcher met Charles Manson and almost signed him to a record deal. Unfortunately, the Tate murders, orchestrated by Manson, took place at the Benedict Canyon house where Melcher had lived. Melcher died of melanoma in November 2004. On a different note, Day had been the proud owner of the Cypress Inn in Carmel by the Sea since the 1980s. The hotel was pet-friendly and gained recognition when it was featured in Architectural Digest in 1999. The mistreatment of animals in a marketplace scene that Day witnessed while filming The Man Who Knew Too Much had a profound impact on her, and she became a vocal opponent of animal abuse. The pitiful living conditions in which the animals used in the film were housed further horrified Day, and she made it plain that she would not continue working with them unless they were given enough to eat and proper care. The production company responded by setting up feeding stations and making sure the animals were fed daily before Day agreed to return to her role. She was a co-founder of Actors and Others for Animals in 1971, and with Mary Tyler Moore, Angie Dickinson, and Jane Meadows, she launched a campaign of newspaper ads denouncing the wearing of fur. In 1978, Day also founded the Doris Day Pet Foundation, now called the Doris Day Animal Foundation, DDF, an independent nonprofit 501c3 grant-giving public charity that supports a number of animal welfare organizations. Joining the Doris Day Animal Foundation in 1987, Doris Day also founded the Doris Day Animal League, DDAL, a national nonprofit citizens lobbying organization that sought to promote animal rights. Day was an outspoken supporter of animal welfare legislation in the U.S. Congress, and she also started the yearly World Spay Day in 1995. In 2006, the DDAL merged with the Humane Society of the United States, HSUS. Day generously contributed $250,000 towards the establishment of the Doris Day Horse Rescue and Adoption Center, which opened in 2011 in Murchison, Texas, on the grounds of an animal sanctuary established by Day's late friend, author Cleveland Amory. The center's mission is to rescue and rehome abused and neglected horses. Moreover, in April 2020, an extraordinary sum of $3 million was raised for the Doris Day Animal Foundation in a posthumous auction of 1,100 of Day's possessions. Doris Day devoted a considerable amount of time and energy to bringing attention to the plight of people living with HIV/AIDS. Her primary goal was to raise awareness and funds for research into this disease. Day was instrumental in the organization of many fundraising events for charities connected to the virus, and she made substantial financial contributions to both research and support programs for those affected by the disease. In 2011, the Canadian magazine Gay Globe honored Doris Day by featuring her on the cover of their #79 edition, honoring her. Despite not being able to attend the 61st Academy Awards in March 1989, where she was supposed to present the Best Original Score Oscar alongside Patrick Swayze and Marvin Hamlish, Day's contributions to the entertainment industry were acknowledged in other ways. In 1981, she was inducted into the Ohio Women's Hall of Fame, and in 1989 she received the prestigious Cecil B. DeMille Award for her outstanding career achievements, so it was a bit of a setback. Also, in 1994, her greatest hits album debuted on the British charts, proving her continued popularity. Her cover of Perhaps, Perhaps, Perhaps was included in the score of the Australian film Strictly Ballroom. In honor of her birthday, Day would celebrate her remarkable legacy by participating in an annual Doris Day music marathon. She declined tribute offers from the American Film Institute and the Kennedy Center Honors because she was not able to attend their ceremonies in person. In 2004, President George W. Bush presented her with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her work in the entertainment industry and animal welfare. Rex Reed and Liz Smith wanted her to receive an Academy Honorary Award, but she turned down multiple offers from the Academy, seeing film as a part of her past. Day received her Grammy for Lifetime Achievement in Music in 2008, again without her presence. Day, at the age of 89, released My Heart in the UK on September 5, 2011. It was her first new album since 1967's The Love Album in 1994, which consists of unreleased recordings produced by Day's son, Terry Melcher. In the U.S., the album reached number 12 on Amazon's bestseller list and helped raise funds for the Doris Day Animal League. Day became the oldest artist to have a UK Top 10 album with new material. In January 2012, she was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Los Angeles Film Critics Association. Day shocked everyone in April 2014 when she showed up at the Doris Day Animal Foundation's annual benefit. Day ultimately downed an offer from Clint Eastwood to act in a film he planned to shoot in 2015. To celebrate her birthday in 2016, Day gave an interview to ABC via phone, where she discussed her career and shared photos from her personal life. Day settled into life in Carmel by the Sea, California, after a successful career in film. Her love of animals led her to adopt countless strays. In an exclusive interview with The Hollywood Reporter, which was published on April 4, 2019, one day after her 97th birthday, Day talked about her incredible work with the Doris Day Animal Foundation, which she founded in 1978. When asked about her favorite film, Day gushed over Calamity Jane, describing how she loved playing the energetic character and how the score, especially the beautiful song Secret Love, enhanced the picture. During the 3-day celebration in Carmel by the Sea, California, that day's loyal fans attend every year in late March to honor her birthday and raise money for her animal foundation. At the 2019 gathering, a special screening of her 1959 film Pillow Talk was held to commemorate its 60th anniversary. Looking back on the film, Day reflected on how happy she was to have worked with her dear friend Rock Hudson. The two of them shared 3 films together, and their friendship endured, and Day missed him very much. After a courageous battle with pneumonia, Doris Day passed away at her home in Carmel Valley, California, on May 13, 2019, at the age of 97. In accordance with her wishes, the Doris Day Animal Foundation has announced that there will be no public memorial services, including funerals, grave markers, or tributes. Tell us whatever aspect of Doris Day's life piqued your interest the most. We welcome your comments and suggestions.